Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to These Go to 11. Once again, I'm Nathan Bell. Joining me as always, Greg Dutcher. Greg, what's going on, man?
Do you want me to sing Auld Lang Syne to just get us going? Because I don't know the words. Something about acquaintances being forgot, and something about I don't know.
Something
Uh,
about something and something.
yeah, potato chips and ranch dip. Oh, that's what I eat on New Year's. Don't know it, dude, but that's all I got.
Well, you got the humming piece down.
I do. I can hum it. I can. Happy New Year, brother.
Happy New Year, dude. It is New Year's Eve. And so
Yeah. And
uh
this is dropping New Year's Eve, correct?
dropping New Year's Eve. Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
So, just like we did with Christmas Eve, we're going to give the people a nice kind of reflection on the year and what we plan to do and all the fun, crazy stuff. So, looking forward to this discussion.
Me too, dude. I know we're going to aim a little shorter
Yep.
because we know everybody's they're probably not waking up New Year's Eve saying I got to listen to a hour and 15-minute podcast. And we'll keep it a little shorter. But as you're going about, viewers and listeners, your day, maybe you're listening to this January 3rd. The year is relatively new, or maybe it is December 31st. We thought we'd kind of keep it short and sweet and just reflect a little bit on the past year. So, dude, the year, thumbs up, thumbs down.
I don't know, like, I don't know that I would say any year that I've been alive,
Mhm.
like, I mean, the year my dad died was pretty hard, obviously,
Of course.
but was it really a thumbs down kind of year? You know,
Mm-hmm.
COVID, it was kind of hard, but there were
Yeah.
moments that were
Oh, yeah.
pretty good, right? I mean, we always talk about this, like that first 3 weeks of like shutdown,
Mm-hmm.
where everybody was kind of in it together and we were looking forward to, things that life just got more simple, right?
Yeah.
So I honestly, I think it was par for the course, right? I mean,
Yep.
a year in review. I guess, one of the bigger things, I did have a heart attack last year. So,
Yep.
that was certainly noteworthy and on my,
Yeah.
uh, on the thumbs down list. But I think in terms of overall, I think it was a good year.
Yeah.
I think it was a
Yeah.
good year. There's a lot
Yeah.
that happened, right? I mean, we're going to talk about a lot of the news and things that you know went on, but yeah, I think it was pretty good. What about you?
Yeah. I think it's wise of you to say, by the way, dude, you need to get yourself like a 1987 Yellow Pages, sit on it so you can elevate yourself 2 inches and cover up the very top of our ongoing
Right, the
paintwork with
sign.
that sign.
Oh, I've also got
So,
to
yeah.
not move because it's clearly we're entering into the new year and we still have not fixed this.
Right. But I'm telling you, everybody, 2025. 2025 is the year
Wait,
that
wait.
thing is. What? There you go, dude. Yeah, that's all you got to do. Get
How's that?
yourself. Yeah, I'm telling you, you get a 1987 Yellow Pages, dude. Where there were 2,000 Jones and Smiths in it. You'll get yourself up. No, but I absolutely do agree with your thought. I mean, in some ways, it's a little bit of a silly question. A year's way too long of a sample size to say it was good or bad. There
Yeah,
might be exceptions. Obviously, if your wife, child, God forbid, were to pass away at the beginning of the year, it's very doubtful. You say, but by June I was doing well. I mean, the healing process is underway, but
yeah,
few people would say that was a good year. But for the most part, it's just a microcosm of life, right? And I think 2024 had some great moments, had some lousy moments. A lot of that's up to perspective, coming through a national election. Well, it
yeah.
depends who you were voting for and rooting for. I know people that are elated. I know people that are really, really bummed about it.
Right.
So, that, but even that, dude, let's be honest. I've been happy about the candidates in the past that win. and the happiness lasts about 2 days, and then
Yeah.
I never think about it again. It's like what I call World Cup syndrome.
Right.
Man, this is the most important thing in the world. And then it's over, and it's like, oh yeah, when's that come around again? 4 years? Yeah, think I'll get busy with some other things.
Yeah.
So that's just, I think, a wise way to look at it. And I think, the scriptures talk about this. We've got you take a book like Ecclesiastes, there's a
Yeah.
time to be born, a time to die, right? A time to work and rest, and time to be engaged in war or fighting, and a time of peace. It's the cyclical nature. So, you look back at 2024 and you say, here's what I say. Thank you, Lord, because a year ago today, Nathan, neither of us was promised the next day, let alone the next year.
Yeah.
So to come to the end of another year is always a sense from the believer's perspective of thank you, Lord.
Yep.
You gave this to us, and it was never guaranteed.
Yeah.
So that might sound a little basic for some, but I think New Year's is a time to be reminded of it. I feel like I've asked you this in some other New Year's cast in the past, dude.
Yeah.
I always feel I'm not feeling it right now, but usually it's maybe we get closer to midnight and you're watching TV. Maybe it's because we're heading into the winter season,
Mhm.
which we're going to be addressing starting next podcast
Yeah.
in a very meaningful, direct way. But I always feel a little melancholy.
Mm.
I don't know what that is. Maybe there's a recognition that when the calendar changes, oh, I'm getting a lot further away from 1970 where it all
Yeah.
began, right? That's starting to be like, when?
Right.
I'm happy to say it's not the 1870s,
That's right.
but to most Gen Zers, it might as well be, right?
Yeah.
1970. So there is always a sense, I think, for New Year's that there's, things are moving on,
Yeah.
right? And we're here for a short time in the scope of things. So maybe that's part of it.
I think that's a pretty constant. I remember I always enjoyed New Year's for the celebration, but I never enjoyed it for the sake of I know I'm heading back to life, as it were, right?
Yes.
As a child, like New Year's marks the end of the break celebration, right? School is going to start up again. As an adult, it marked the end of the holiday kind of time off. A lot of people take that Christmas to New Year's
Yep.
time off. I did that for a number of years as well.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of it marks the end of peace, enjoyment, rest,
Yeah.
um, and the beginning of the unknown, really, right? You're
Yeah.
closing out this chapter of things that things that you've seen, things that you've
Right.
experienced, and now you're heading into a brand new chapter of the unknown.
Yep.
What does, in our case right now, what does 2025 have in store for us?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have really spun on this mentality of I know to your point, it wasn't to do this, but really that thumbs up, thumbs down mentality,
Yeah.
right? Where man, I hope this year is better than the last,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Where more realistically for me, right? I'm looking at the year like, man, I made it through 2024. By God's grace, have not had a heart attack. We still have a little while to go, a few
Yep.
more hours, but so I've got a year under my belt without a heart attack. So,
No, dude.
like the perspective is just different in that regard, because it's like, all right, I know some things about myself that I didn't know before, medically and physically. And so all of the focus and intensity of 2024 was, as much as possible,
Yeah.
fixing that. Right.
Yeah.
Um, so, again, to your point, like, it's got ups, it's got downs.
Hmm.
Um, I want to talk a little bit about that though. In terms of let's start with ups. So
Yep.
let's start with that. Like, Greg, three things this year, 2024,
Oh, wow.
that
Yeah.
you would say, man, these were highlights of 2024.
Yeah. Oh, really, really good question, dude. Let me go um, personal
Mm-hmm.
and pastoral, and I'll
Okay.
leave the third, maybe a combination there. Personal, um, just really thankful for my son Ben, who folks at church haven't really seen for quite some time because he's been away at college. But as you know, he went to Ireland August the 28th and came back on December the 18th. And yeah, it's the longest he's ever been away from us. When he was at Maryland, for his undergrad the last couple of years. We might have gone 3 weeks, may have been the longest stretch. But something knowing your kids an hour down the road makes them really feel like, oh, they're just in the neighborhood at the outskirts, right? You don't
Yeah.
really feel like they're that far gone. So, yeah, I'm proud of him. He had a great experience. He just wanted to do his final semester abroad. And real quick on that, dude, he started um, at a college as a freshman, and within 2 weeks, he knew, man, that I do not like this. So he would talk to Lisa and me pretty regularly about it, and it was just not a good situation.
Mhm.
So we just said, well, Ben, muscle through that term. He came home, went to the local community college. So he was feeling discouraged because he was, off track already in his freshman year.
Yeah.
He started at one place, not all the credits would transfer. Dude, how this happened, I mean, ultimately the grace of God, but on a human level, Ben worked his tail off. He went to every summer and winter mini master class that he could.
Mhm.
And fortunately, he had taken some high school courses that could transfer, so that helped him a little bit. So all that to say, he's finishing a semester early. He shouldn't graduate until the spring of 2025, May or
Yep.
so. But here he's graduated at December 2024 and managed to go abroad. So, really happy. He's looking at law school now. He's gotten accepted into a few places, and we're proud of him, excited
Mhm.
for him. He's just really in an exciting phase of life, and I feel good about all my kids. So if they're listening, but they're not, I hope they don't mind. I'm highlighting him in this one. Isaac often gets a lot of the attention. The girls tell me because of the sports. Um, so that's a cool thing. Pastorally, dude, I think this isn't a secret to anybody. I'm very thankful that our church has come through another election season. Dude, I think you and I both know that was a pretty tense election, right? It
Yeah.
it it didn't have the carryover from the 2021 because Trump won, looks like pretty handily, across the
Yeah.
board. So, whatever you feel about Trump or Harris, at least the process itself was pretty quick
Yeah.
and was over. Um, and as you know, ever since 2020, dude, where it seemed like everything got politicized, and that was a new experience. I did not feel that way in 2016, 2012, and far back. As you know, I was worried. So you and I talked about it. Our staff and elders did. We prayed regularly, and I think we've come through it, quite well. I think we address people's concerns, that would ask questions about where the church stood on things. We said we've never and are never, by the grace of God, going to endorse a candidate or anything like that. We're going to keep our eye on Jesus, and we did that by His grace. So I feel really good about that here at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And honestly, dude, that's probably, you said three things, but I probably said 17 many things in those two big things. So those are my good. Can I be the host now and say, what about yours?
Yeah, man. I so this is gonna sound weird, right? Because I just said, thankfully by the grace of God, we got a few more hours here. Um, you know, Heart attack has not happened in 2024, but I
Yes.
think, the heart attack coming, was good in the sense of, uh, so I'm going to bring up a Marvel reference here, right?
Yes, please.
Captain America Civil War. You have General Ross
Yep.
being played by, shoot,
Originally or now?
originally.
Was played by William Hurt.
Thank you, William Hurt. Yes.
Yes.
Is addressing basically the Avengers and talking about, being on the back nine and a heart attack and gaining perspective, right? That was
Yes, I
the word
remember.
he used. And, there, it did, it gave me perspective, right? I tend to go full throttle,
Mhm.
180 miles a minute,
Yeah.
and this, there were a lot of contributing factors to this, and one of them was the lack of sleep and rest that I was getting,
Yeah.
um, the pace that I was setting for myself for everything that I was doing,
Yeah.
and so just kind of gaining that perspective that, there's more to life than just doing,
Yeah.
right? And I always thought of myself as someone who knew when to cut back and when to relax.
Yeah.
And I kind of figured, well, my body will let me know, when I'm tired, and
Hmm.
and the reality is there was things going on in my body that I didn't know, right? So I think from that perspective, gaining that perspective, was good and beneficial.
Yeah.
What do I need to do in order to maintain the body that God has given me? Back in November, we have our annual campaign that we do, Above and Beyond, and
Hmm.
that campaign is all about stewardship, right? And it
Yeah.
focuses on stewardship with our money, but the reality is everything that we have is from God, and we are to be
Hmm.
stewards of that. And so my body, my time, my money, all of it, I am stewarding all of these things because God has entrusted them to me, but they ultimately all belong to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, the stewardship of the pace that I'm keeping and the time that I'm keeping and all of that stuff. I think that's been a highlight because it really has kind of opened up my eyes to, man, it's okay if I don't go full throttle all the time, doing this, doing that. Like I can sit and relax and
Yeah.
breathe and, just enjoy life. Uh,
Yeah.
so,
I'm so glad to hear that, Nathan.
yeah,
It
I
doesn't
think that's,
surprise me based on other things you've said, but I've never heard you quite distill it
yeah,
that simply. Yeah, you do a lot, dude. You do an awful lot. I know that you're one of the most industrious guys I know, and I know that kind of initially when you're the providence of God really forces you to say stop in
right.
this case and lay, sit, stay. It's not always pleasant,
No,
but if that's sometimes what it takes to really stop and appreciate, it sounds like such a cliche, but it isn't. It's the gift of each day. And when you said that, it made me think of imagine, dude, if you enjoy at the beginning of 2023, like New Year's 22 going into 23,
yeah,
God revealed, hey, later in the year, you're going to have a heart attack and it's not something you'll be able to stop. I mean, as much sometimes as I say, oh man, I wish God had warned me or told me the future, I've come to appreciate the older I get, dude, and as the years go by, the kindness of God in not doing that.
yeah,
Because, dude, it would become our obsession.
yeah,
It would become, and we'd probably miss so much along the way. And all those days leading up to that, dude, you weren't thinking about having a heart attack. You're
right.
thinking, my curriculum,
Right.
my goals, what Joy and I need to get done, what we're trying to
Yeah.
experience together, the thousand things that you and I contemplate that God
Yeah.
gives us for rewarding work, the
Yeah.
gift of life is before us. And to tell us, the older I get, that would be it borders on cruelty
Yeah.
to know.
Yeah.
And I'm not so sure it's the gift people would think, if I only knew. I'm not
Right.
so sure that would be what you think it is. And dude, I've said that 100 times. There'd be no CFC.
Right.
Um, I mean, maybe somebody else would have planted a version of CFC and had some of the same people. I don't even mean to say it's about me, but I'm saying the CFC that exists with me as its founder.
Yep.
Um, if God had shown me, honestly, dude, the first 5 years,
Mm.
I don't think I would have done it, let alone the full 21 at this
Yeah.
point. And there have been some amazingly beautiful, rich experiences
Yeah.
and some brutally painful ones that I never would have seen coming. And I'm thankful that I
Yeah.
didn't see it coming because it's the old adage of the lamp lighting the path, right? You see a step or two ahead. That's it.
Yep.
If you saw the path and you said, "Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, look at that pile of snakes.
Yeah.
Look at those guys on top of the hedge with spears. I'm not even starting the journey.
Yep.
Let alone taking a few steps." So, to me, New Year's is a time, Lord, thank you.
Yeah.
2025 is a mystery and we don't know what's going to happen. And I understand there's often some fear that is born out of not knowing, but the joy of saying, because God, that's his job.
Yeah.
He carries that burden because he's the only one who really can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we don't have to have it.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. We can plan, we can have aspirations
Yep.
that we always submit. Lord, well, like I mean, Ben, who I mentioned, he's got favorite schools he'd like to go to. If the Lord doesn't want him there, he's not going to those schools.
Right.
So I mean, we make some plans, but it's always filtered through God's providence.
Yeah.
And I love thinking about that this time of the year.
Yeah. Well, and it's the idea of, right, if to your point, if we could see ahead, that's where we would always be looking. But it seems like scripture isn't actually pointing us ahead, except in terms of the ultimate fulfillment of the story, but it's always pointing us back to remember what God has done for us.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, constantly throughout Israel's history, God is telling them, hey, I want you to erect this monument. I want you to place these stones here. I want you to do these things so that you remember my faithfulness. So
Yeah.
when the things that come ahead, you can't see, you remember who I was, right? The look back on
Love it.
the hall of faith that we see in Hebrews, right? Look at Abraham, look at Isaac, look at Jacob, look at,
Yep.
David, look at all of these people who didn't know what was coming ahead, but they could trust in what God had done before, and they continued to trust that he would be faithful ahead.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and dude, that I love the monuments because they're past tense to us, but they're all signifying events that were at one point in the far distant future.
yeah,
So to think that, our past it was somebody else's future, our future is going to be somebody else's past.
yep,
The question becomes, okay, I don't have to guess. I don't have to read the tea leaves
yeah,
to make sure everything's going to be right. I just have to know that the same God, I love that song we sing, same God, right? He's
yep,
the same God that
yep,
was at work in the Old Testament, at work in the life and ministry of Jesus in the early church, hasn't left, right? And he said, none of you know the future. I know exactly what I'm going to do. And if you knew, you wouldn't do anything
right,
because you
yeah.
can't handle the burden.
Well,
So let it go.
and that's what he tells his disciples before he goes, right? Because it's like, okay, Jesus, when are you coming back? It's
Yeah.
like, it's not for you to know
Not for
dates,
you to know the times and dates.
right? And
Absolutely.
that's so encouraging because again, he knows where we would be if we had those things, right? And we
Yes.
would not be able to function, right? We've talked about this before in other settings. the information that we have available to us is so completely overwhelming for who we are, right? Like all of the information that's coming in from around the world, right? And we see that at its core, we really can't handle it, that we were only intended to handle, our tribe, as it were, right?
Which
only,
we can barely handle.
right. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And so could you imagine if anybody really had the foresight and forethought to look into the future and see all of the things that were coming? We would be a wreck. We would be
of course.
an absolute wreck.
It sounds like an old cliche, but it's true, dude. It's above our pay grade.
Yeah.
And thank God it is, dude. To me, we get the privilege in this area. We have responsibilities in many areas, but knowing the future and worrying about the future and being overly concerned about the future, we get to be Lieutenant Weinberg.
Yeah.
Few good men. I have no responsibilities here whatsoever. See, look, dude, you got to be a professionally trained podcaster like
That's
you
right.
and me to drop in a Few Good Men reference, a 1992 movie here at the tail end of 2024. You're welcome. Thank you. I'm hearing, dude, I'm looking around. I'm hearing no applause. But dude, I know we're wrapping up because this is short.
Yeah, this is a shorter one. So, yeah. So that was one, right? Heart attack. I think the second one was this is going to sound like super ridiculous, super shallow, but it satisfies the nerd within me. Deadpool versus Wolverine.
Yeah.
Dude, it was everything I wanted.
It was your rock candy guilty pleasure of 2024.
My word. Oh my word. Right? Yes.
You don't have to think
for families with small children. So do not,
Oh yeah. No, I'm glad you mentioned. Yeah, that is definitely consult other podcasts that we've talked about to use your discretion on
that's right.
What you believe you can handle, etc. Of course, all those caveats, but I love that, dude.
Goodness.
Guilty pleasure.
Yeah, just really like, everything that I wanted the movie to be. I have at this point seen the movie 5 or 6 times. I will probably see it many more going forward, but just very, very well done. A very good story.
Yeah.
And very cleverly done. So yeah.
Yes. I'll make my last little looking forward to 2025 due to movie thing. I'm hoping we get a really solid Marvel movie to build off of your General Ross comment.
Yeah.
Played by the late great William Hurt.
Yep.
Now played by Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
The great Harrison Ford as he plays Colonel Ross in the new Captain America movie in February.
Yeah. Yes.
We might have to bring in our buddy Bartleball on that one.
Yeah.
Because I have high hopes, dude. I like the preview. Marvel has not been hitting all cylinders these last couple of years. I think that's not up for debate. Most people would agree. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
But the good thing, dude, only the Lord knows what those Rotten Tomato scores will be. But we'll have a good time getting there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, so we are, we're down on time now. And we just want to wish everyone a happy new year. Hope you all enjoy, your celebrations and parties today. If you're listening to this on New Year's Eve, yes, please be safe. And if you're not listening to this on New Year's Eve, then hopefully you enjoy it in the future. So,
yes,
Greg, we're going to go ahead and sign off now. Till the next time, we just rock the Casbah.
New Year's style.
Thank you again for listening to These Go to 11, an unchurchy conversation about everyday faith. Once again, please make sure you like, subscribe, and review on your favorite podcast platform. And if you ever find yourself in the Forest Hill, Maryland area, please feel free to stop by at 135 Industry Lane, and you can get all of our service times and information at christfc.org.
These go to 11.